Holy cow! Welcome to Donnie's Hangout Adventures. And before I get into talking about WrestleMania and mainly Roman Reigns, and I'll get into that, there was a video I did about the WWE Hall of Fame being weak. Somebody said, did I call the entire class weak? Because it also had Paul Heyman. No, I'm talking about the overall presentation, of the Hall of Fame class. No, Paul Heyman deserved to be in a non-Hall of Fame building, but no, Paul Heyman deserved it, but the rest, it was a pretty weak class in and of itself. Besides Muhammad Ali and Paul Heyman, the rest of the class was relatively weak. Now, today, I record this, the eclipse happened, so that happened today, which was on Sunday. Monday. Sorry, wrong day. That was so today's Monday, so hopefully I'll upload this tomorrow. And yes, WrestleMania 40 is in the books, and I missed the day when WrestleMania was one night instead of two. They started doing that crap during COVID. Does it make WrestleMania better? I say no, because they can pre-tape a lot of this stuff now instead of it being live. But now a lot of it's pre-taped. And WrestleMania to me was pretty predictable. A lot of the matches, you pretty much knew what was going to happen. You knew Gunther was probably going to lose his Intercontinental Championship, because they're probably going to push him towards the main event scene. And, his reign was 666 days. Bayley winning the Women's Championship. It was pretty much predictable what you would see on WrestleMania. There was really no big surprises in and of itself. Miz and R-Truth winning the tag titles. So it was a pretty predictable WrestleMania in and of itself. And we all knew going into it, no matter how they were going to book it or how he would lose his championship. We all knew Roman Reigns' reign as undisputed champion was going to be coming to an end. That's how predictable it was. It's just a matter of how they were going to book it. I think originally the plan was, but plans seemed to change. I think originally they were going to have CM Punk face Roman, but CM Punk got injured, and then Rock came back. I think maybe they were going to have Rock face Roman, but fans weren't on board with that, and they started booing him, and he did some of his best heel work since the 90s. So they changed. They kept changing the plans with it, but I think all along, probably the best one to end the reign was Cody Rhodes. Even though I'm not a big fan of Cody, I never have been, but it's almost like Cody ended a curse. He's second generation. Okay, I know Rock has been world champion. I know Orton has been, but the thing that he sort of ended a curse with was, if your dad was a former world champion, usually second or third generation stars usually didn't become world champions. So, not counting Charlotte Flair. So it almost like Cody Rhodes into the curse. Now, a lot of times people get tired of these long reigns, and usually the long reigns in the modern era from like 96 on, or maybe even like 95, we'll see about 96. A lot of these reigns that they have usually don't exceed 400 or 500. They don't exceed long days nowadays, because there's a lot of pay-per-views and they do a lot of title switching. That's the way it used to be for many years, that you would hear a lot of the world championships, intercontinental championships, whatever it may be, tag team championships, that they, change hands quite frequently. So you don't see what you used to see back in the old days of like the Bruno Sammartinos having over a 2,000-day reign consecutively at one time, or even Bob Backlund, or even going into the 80s when you had Hulk Hogan, who held the title for 1,400 days. Now, what's different about those reigns compared to Roman Reigns' reign, that's sort of a tongue twister there. What's different about this is there's a lot of pay-per-views. They equal out about a pay-per-view every month, and they defend the title. Yes, Roman didn't appear on every pay-per-view, but he would defend the title a lot in any given calendar year. With Hogan's reign, it wasn't so much that. They had 4 pay-per-views. They had Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. That was it. That was the 4 pay-per-views. And no, Hogan didn't defend on all those pay-per-views. He usually defended on house shows and wrestler superstar tapings and stuff like that. So Hogan didn't defend the title that much. Now, Bob Backlund and Bruno, there was no pay-per-views. There was barely any TV coverage of that. So those reigns are almost completely forgotten about. Roman's reign. It's like 2 words that are the same. Roman Reigns' reign is considered. It's going to be. It's in the top 4. He held the championship for 1,000. How many days is it? 1,300 and I think 73 days or something like that. So he held the reign for he held the championship for a long time. I mean, that's about almost 4 years worth that he held that title. That's a long time. And you don't hear that much happening nowadays. The longest reign that there was before that was Brock, 500 days, over 500 days, and there was Punk's 434-day reign. That's 1 calendar year. 1 calendar year holding the championship. Reigns did it 2021, 2022, 2023. That's a lot of time trying to figure out who the opponents can be and who he can have a couple or 3 pay-per-views with to defend the championship. You know, and a lot of times when there's these big reigns like this, they have to look back and they'll wait a few years usually and go, well, you know what, that was a really great championship reign, or that was a really bad championship reign. I think for mostly, this totally saved Roman's career. It seems like it's forgotten now. It's totally forgotten now, because if you remember pre-Tribal Chief Bloodline storyline, WWE and Vince and Triple H, they almost didn't know what to do with Roman Reigns. They almost didn't know what to do with him. Even though he had the lineage and all the people that he's related to, you know, the Inoue family, you know, like Rikishi, The Rock, Yokozuna, etc., 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 Usos, they almost didn't know what to do with Roman. And there for about 6 years, at least 6 years, they tried to book Roman as a face and tried to push it down the fans' throat. It wasn't working. No matter what they tried, and trust me, they tried a lot. They tried to have him in a program with Triple H. They tried to put him in a program with John Cena. Whatever they threw up against the wall didn't work, and it didn't stick like shit. Nothing worked. And if it wasn't for Roman taking time off during the height of COVID and coming up with this bloodline story on his own, it's sort of like the Bray Wyatt, may he rest in peace, with his Fiend character and all Bray Wyatt came up with in his brain. It saved his career. Same thing with Roman. This completely saved his career. He went away. He's like, you know what? The face shit isn't working. He became a top heel, aligning himself with one of the most despicable heels in WWE, in Paul Heyman. And it worked. Roman learned how to talk on the mic. He learned how to do matches the right way, how to tell a story. He learned so much. He literally, in that time, in 4 years' time, he went from somebody that you could count on for a good match to somebody you would want to have a great match with. People wanted to start to work with him, from the John Cenas to the Randy Ortons to even the Cody Rhodes. Everybody wanted to work with Roman, and it worked. He completely turned around from where he was when he was the face of the company, wasn't working, and went to the top heel with the Bloodline storyline. And let me tell you, long-term storylines are almost dead. It seemed like it. The last time I seen a long-term storytelling of this nature done this well was not since the NWO. You know what I'm talking about? The original incarnation NWO versus Sting. Remember that? That was long-term storytelling at its finest. It was at its finest. That was long-term storytelling, and how well they did with it. The match wasn't the best with Sting versus Hogan, but the long-term storytelling that went on for over a year and a half was absolutely fabulous. This, with the Bloodline, for 4 years, they told long-term storytelling at its best. I think the reason for this is because of having the mastermind, Paul Heyman, who knows how to book angles. No question about it. And having him probably be in charge of the writing for this, was absolutely great storytelling. The only thing I would have done that would have ended Roman Reigns' reign as champion, I would have had The Rock turn on Roman. That was about the only thing they could have done. But I think they're trying to save that for a future Raw or SmackDown, and maybe for a future SummerSlam match between The Rock and Roman. And do I think that can happen? Yes, I do now. I do think that can happen now, because Rock at 52 showed that he can go in a match, and he looked pretty good from what I could see. I don't have, internet and, Peacock or Netflix or wherever it's at. I can't actually watch the match to see how good Rock did. But from what I heard, he did pretty well on night one of WrestleMania in the tag match, which probably covered up, some weaknesses he has at that age. But I think it is possible that Rock and Roman could have a match, maybe at SummerSlam, if they want to, and if they can, with Rock's schedule and being in Hollywood. And Roman's going to take time off because he's been the top heel in the company for 4 years. That's a long time. That's a long, long time. Do I think Cody's going to be a good world champion? I don't think so. I mean, whenever you got to follow that to whoever is after it, that's a tough one to do. There's no way Cody's going to have that long of a reign. I think it's going to be a few months, maybe even a year. I don't even think it'll go a year. I think it'll be a few months and he'll drop the title. I don't see him having a long reign, but I do see him having it for a few months because they want to, conclude the story. At least he finished the story. I don't know who his first challenger can be. Maybe Drew McIntyre. I don't know who it's going to really be at this point. But the historic reign of Roman did end. I did think it should have ended last year, but I'm glad they waited to end it this year because it really emphasized how historic the reign is. There's some people think the reign should have went on longer. I think at this point in time, I think this was the perfect time to actually end it, so Roman can take some needed some time off. He really does need some time off. I guess he's been having some lingering injuries that he hasn't actually he ain't really gotten healed from. You gotta remember, Roman's not as young as he used to be. He's pushing 40, and in wrestling terms, that's getting pretty old. I mean, he's 38 now. He is in the prime, but he needs some time off to, rest up his injuries. But what a historical reign that finally ended, and as Roman finally showed that he can be the top guy in the company as a heel. I hope they keep him as a heel. Him as a face never worked. It never, ever worked. But him as a heel, magic. Me and Mom are saying that's all for now.
That's all for now.